The Okiku Well. The Okiku Well is a centuries-old cursed well in Japan, tied to betrayal, death, and a ghost who just won't stop counting plates. You ever think about how fragile human sanity is? One broken plate. That's all it took to doom a woman, stain a well, and cement a legend so creepy it makes the ring look like a bubble bath commercial. Okiku was a servant in Himeji Castle during the 1600 seconds. She worked for a paranoid samurai who claimed she lost a priceless dish. In truth, he wanted to corner her into being his mistress. She refused. So what's the rational move? Obviously, he tortured her and tossed her into the well like garbage. People really were built different back then. By different, I mean brain-dead, sadistic psychos. But here's where it spirals into obsession. They say Okiku's ghost rose from the water, counting plates in the dark. 1, 2, 3, until she reached 9. But there were supposed to be 10. And when she realized the 10th was gone, she'd shriek. The kind of shriek that makes your spine feel like it's been dipped in liquid nitrogen. Over and over, night after night, for centuries. Can you imagine living near that? You're just trying to eat dinner and your immortal neighbor is out back reliving the worst moment of her life like a broken cassette tape. People actually built shrines, prayers, and Buddhist rituals around this well just to shut her up, and still tourists swear they hear her counting when they lean over the stone rim. 1, 2, 3, and suddenly you're wondering if you misplaced the 10th plate. That's the genius of it. This isn't just a curse stuck in a well, it's a curse that hijacks your OCD. So yeah, if you're ever in Himeji Castle, go ahead and take a peek down that mossy mouth of stone. But don't stay long. If you lose count with her, she might scream for you too. Poveglia Island. Poveglia Island is a forbidden patch of land in Italy, drenched in plague corpses, madness, and rumors of demons. Imagine being so cursed that even the Italian government, which will cheerfully rent you a villa where the plumbing is older than America, says, "Nope, don't go there, that's Poveglia, Venice's dirty little graveyard." In the late 1700 seconds, when the plague swept through like death doing Black Friday shopping, they dumped thousands of infected corpses on the island. Some burned, some buried, some just left to rot. The soil is literally 1/3 human ash. People joke about becoming one with nature, but this is more like nature becoming one with a mass grave. But wait, it gets worse. Centuries later, because apparently Europe never runs out of questionable ideas, someone decided this plague pit would make a great location for a psychiatric hospital. Yes. Let's put the mentally ill on the island where the soil literally smells like death. Patients reported seeing shadowy figures, hearing screams at night, feeling hands grip their wrists in empty rooms. But the doctors didn't believe them because insanity was the diagnosis for everything back then, including being sad for more than 10 minutes. One doctor in particular became infamous. He allegedly tortured patients, performed crude lobotomies, and laughed while tossing people from the bell tower. Eventually, he jumped from it himself, though witnesses swear something pushed him. Locals whisper he still screams in the wind around the crumbling ruins. Now the island sits abandoned, officially off limits, though thrill seekers sneak in with cameras. And they all say the same thing. The silence feels wrong, like you're not alone, like the ground itself resents you, which makes sense, because beneath every step are the bones of thousands of plague victims. It's not haunted by one ghost. It's haunted by an entire continent's bad decisions. So, if you ever find yourself in Venice with a gondola ride feeling too cheerful, remember Poveglia is just across the water. Waiting. The Skinwalker Valley. The Skinwalker Valley is a desolate stretch of Utah desert infamous for shapeshifters, mutilated cattle, and UFOs. Here's the thing about deserts. They already feel cursed. Too much sky, too much silence, too much space for your brain to cook up nonsense. But Skinwalker Valley doesn't need your imagination. It delivers nightmare fuel wholesale. The Navajo speak of skinwalkers, witches who wear the skins of animals, able to shift forms at will. Sounds mythic, right? Except ranchers here keep finding livestock carved up with surgical precision, organs missing, no blood spilled, no tracks around the bodies. That's not myth. That's something out there playing operation with real animals. People camp near the ridges and swear they see huge wolf-like creatures that walk on 2 legs. Others see lights in the sky, darting like predatory fireflies. Some hear voices calling their name from the darkness, even though nobody's around. A whole family once claimed a massive, bulletproof wolf attacked their calves and shrugged off gunfire like it was mosquito bites. Scientists even came in, actual researchers, not the tinfoil hat brigade, and tried to study it. They set up cameras, sensors, thermal scopes, but every time they aimed at something strange, the equipment fried or batteries drained instantly. That's the valley's favorite trick. It eats proof. And here's where the paranoia starts to boil over. Because if the valley doesn't want to be studied, what does that mean? Is it alive? Is it some kind of interdimensional hunting ground? Or is it just laughing at us, letting us see enough to panic but never enough to understand? One rancher sold his property after endless nights of terror. Another swore he saw a portal open above the desert floor, spilling orange light, something crawling through before it snapped shut. You hear that and think, okay, maybe ghosts I can handle, aliens too, but portals? Nope. So yeah, Skinwalker Valley isn't just cursed land, it's land with agency. It decides what you see, it decides what you survive, and maybe it's only letting us talk about it because the joke's on us. Hoia Baciu Forest. Hoia Baciu Forest is a Romanian woodland where trees bend wrong, people vanish, and UFOs allegedly circle overhead. The first time I saw a picture of this place, I thought, oh cool doctor. Seuss finally snapped and drew a forest on acid. The trees curve into unnatural hooks, like they're physically recoiling from something in the soil. People call it the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, because of course Romania needed more reasons to scare the hell out of us. Dracula wasn't enough? Let's just throw in a forest where reality glitches like a bad video game. The stories sound like fever dreams, shepherds walking in with flocks that never return, a 5-year-old girl vanishing, reappearing 5 years later, wearing the exact same clothes, not a day older, no memory of what happened, people stepping into a circular clearing where nothing grows like the earth itself, rejected life there and suddenly they're missing hours, cameras fill with static, electronics die, visitors come out with burns or scratches they can't explain, and then there are the lights. Floating orbs, spinning discs. A military technician once captured a saucer-shaped craft hovering above the forest in the 1,960 seconds, and to this day, locals swear it wasn't a trick of light. You camp there overnight, and you're basically signing up to be abducted, probed, or at the very least, mocked by the universe. What kills me is how casually people treat it now. Tour companies literally offer haunted forest tours. Imagine paying money to risk walking into a dimensional tear. Sure, Vlad, let's bring the family into the forest where physics cries itself to sleep. The place doesn't just look cursed, it feels like it's waiting, like the forest is hungry and occasionally swallows time just to see if anyone notices. Step into Hoia Baciu and you don't just risk getting lost in the woods, you risk getting lost in the folds of reality itself. And some people never fold back out. Aokigahara. Aokigahara is a dense Japanese forest at the base of Mount Fuji, infamous as the Suicide Forest. This isn't just cursed land. This is land that eats hope. The silence there is so thick it swallows sound. The soil is volcanic, strangling compasses and GPS signals. The trees grow so dense they block out wind, birds, life itself. You don't hear rustling leaves or scurrying animals, you hear your own heartbeat, and sometimes you hear rope swinging where no one should be. For centuries, the forest was associated with ubasute, the old practice of abandoning the sick or elderly in the wilderness. Then came literature, films, whispers of spirits whispering louder than your own thoughts. Now, it's become a magnet for despair. Hikers find abandoned tents, shoes, notes pinned to trunks, strings tied between trees so people can find their way back, except sometimes the strings just end. Locals won't go near it after dark. Some say they've seen pale figures wandering without faces, drifting deeper into the shadows. Others hear footsteps pacing behind them, but when they turn, nothing. Guides leave signs urging, your life is precious. Think of your family, which is chilling because the forest has become so infamous that signs like that are necessary. And the strangest part, people who've gone in and come back describe the same feeling, that the forest wants them, like an invisible hand on the shoulder, pulling them deeper, coaxing them to stop resisting. A psychic once claimed the roots are filled with restless souls, and that's why compasses spin. Maybe not scientific, but when your tech betrays you, maybe ghosts don't need science. Aokigahara isn't just haunted, it's predatory. It waits patiently for broken people to wander in, and then it makes sure they never leave. The Zone of Silence. The Zone of Silence is a barren patch of desert in northern Mexico where radios fail, compasses spin, and myths multiply. You'd think cursed land needs blood, ghosts, or at least a creepy castle. Nope. Sometimes all it takes is silence. Imagine walking into a desert where the air swallows sound. Your radio won't work, your compass spins like it's drunk, and even birds avoid overhead flight. It's called the Zone of Silence, and it sits right on the same latitude as the Bermuda Triangle and the Egyptian pyramids, because apparently Earth loves symmetry in its nightmares. Locals whisper about meteors falling unnaturally often here. Scientists admit, yeah, a suspicious number of cosmic rocks crash into this patch of sand, which is either bad luck or the sky has an abusive relationship with Mexico. People who camp there talk about glowing orbs hovering above their tents, voices calling their names in languages they don't know, and strangers who appear on the horizon, tall, pale, dressed oddly only to vanish when approached. Then there are the stories of time loss. Travelers swear they walked for an hour only to find whole days missing. Clocks go haywire, watches stop. Like the desert has its own tempo, and you're just not invited. Skeptics blame magnetic anomalies, minerals, blah blah, science. But tell me why ranchers keep finding cattle with strange burns, or why people who've never met describe the same mysterious figures, the strangers of the desert, who give warnings before vanishing into the dunes. It's one of those places that feels like the planet has a secret, and it's not sharing. The zone of silence doesn't roar at you, doesn't scare you with screams. It does worse. It makes you realize just how small you are when the universe decides to ignore you. The Island of Dolls. The Island of Dolls is a floating shrine of mutilated dolls hanging from trees in Mexico City's canals. You ever wonder what pure nightmare fuel looks like in daylight? It's this place. Imagine rowing through the quiet canals of Xochimilco, reeds brushing your boat, dragonflies buzzing in the heat, and then you see them. Dolls. Dozens. Hundreds. Rotting plastic heads, eyeless sockets, limbs missing, torsos nailed to tree trunks, tiny arms outstretched like they're begging. Welcome to the Island of Dolls, possibly the most cursed playground the world never asked for. The legend starts with Don Julian Santana, a hermit who lived alone on the island. He claimed a young girl drowned in the canal, her spirit haunting the place. One day he found a doll floating in the water, tangled in reeds. He hung it in a tree to honor her ghost. Sweet, right? Except it didn't stop. He kept finding more dolls in the canals, in the trash, in random alleys, and he hung every single one. Soon the island looked like a horror show staged by Toys R Us after the apocalypse. He said the dolls whispered to him, their eyes followed him, that hanging them was the only way to keep the girl's spirit calm. He devoted 50 years to this ritual. Then one day, Don Julian was found floating in the same spot where he claimed the girl drowned. Coincidence? Or did the dolls finally collect payment? Now tourists visit by boat, leaving their own dolls as offerings. But the locals, they avoid it. They swear the dolls shift positions at night, murmur under the moonlight, laugh when nobody's near. I don't know what's worse, believing they're haunted or believing they're not, and realizing it was just one man's unraveling psyche made permanent in plastic and dust. The island isn't cursed because it kills you. It's cursed because it makes you stare straight into obsession, grief, and decay, and then it smiles at you through a cracked porcelain grin. The Nazca Lines. The Nazca Lines are massive geoglyphs carved into Peru's desert, their origins and purpose still unknown. Stand on the ground and they look like random scratches. Get in the air, though suddenly the desert blooms with patterns. Hummingbirds, monkeys, spirals, spiders, hundreds of massive figures etched into the earth itself. Some stretch over 1,000 feet, and here's the curse, nobody knows why. Imagine building monuments that only make sense from a vantage point humans didn't even have for another 1,500 years. Either the Nazca were geniuses playing the long game, or something up there was watching. Scientists say they were ritual pathways meant to honor gods, bring rain, or align with stars. But then you hear stories of pilots flying overhead, their instruments glitching. Tourists swear the lines vibrate with energy, like the earth itself humming. Shamans claim the desert holds ancient spirits, and these lines are binding marks, cages scratched across the land to keep whatever lurks beneath from rising. But the creepiest part? The lines survive because it never rains there. Thousands of years of silence, the same lines untouched, unbroken, waiting. It's like a message written not for the people who made them, but for someone or something that still hasn't arrived. So you stand there, staring at a giant bird carved into the desert floor, and you wonder, was this an invitation? A warning? A map? Or maybe, just maybe, the Nazca didn't draw these for the gods, they drew them for us, to remind future humans that we're walking on someone else's blueprint. The Nazca lines aren't just cursed because they're unexplained, they're cursed because deep down, you already know the truth. The desert is whispering that we're not the first guests here, and probably not the last.